The Plague of the Middle Ages, Part 1. The silent village, the moon hung low over the valley, veiled in a haze of thin clouds that shimmered faintly in the night air. The wind whispered through the wheat fields, carrying with it the faint scent of rain and wood smoke. Beneath that dim sky, a narrow dirt road wound its way toward a forgotten village, one that time itself seemed to have abandoned. The village had no name on any map, no record in any book. It was small, built of stone cottages with straw roofs, standing close together as if for warmth. By day, it was a quiet place. By night, it was silent. And lately, that silence had become heavier, thicker, as though the air itself carried a warning. It was the year of our Lord 1348. Few in those parts knew what was happening beyond the hills. The world felt far away until the sickness arrived. It began with whispers. The travelers passing through spoke of a darkness moving from the south, of villages emptied overnight, of bells tolling endlessly for the dead. They said it came from across the sea, carried by ships that brought not only spices and silk, but death itself. At first, no one believed. They laughed nervously by the fire, saying it was God's test or a tale to frighten the children. But when old Thomas fell ill, the laughter stopped. Thomas had been a miller all his life. Strong, quiet, never sick a day before. But one morning, he could not rise from his bed. His wife found black marks on his skin, small at first, then swelling beneath his arms like dark fruit. His breath came shallow, and his eyes burned with fever. Within 3 days, he was gone. They buried him behind the mill. By the following week, 5 more followed. At the edge of the village, in a small cottage by the woods, lived a young woman named Ilara. She was a healer's daughter, her mother gone years before, her father taken by war. Alone, she gathered herbs and roots, whispering prayers as she worked. People came to her door with cuts, fevers, and fears. When the sickness came, they came to her again, not for medicine, but for hope. And though her heart trembled, she gave them what comfort she could. Each night, she lit a candle by her window, a small golden flame against the dark. Villagers said that as long as Ilara's light burned, their hope would live. But even hope, she knew, could not stop what was coming. The crows arrived before dawn one morning, dozens of them, perched upon the rooftops, black shapes against the gray sky. Their cries filled the stillness. Children hid behind their mothers' skirts. Men made the sign of the cross. That same morning, the priest stopped ringing the bell. He was found in the chapel, his face pale as wax, a rosary still clutched in his hand. Ilara went to see him, her heart heavy with dread. The air inside the chapel was thick and sweet, like spoiled honey. Candles burned low on the altar, their flames trembling. She knelt beside the fallen priest and whispered a prayer, but the silence gave her no answer. When she left, she saw the road empty, stretching into the hills. She knew what it meant. The sickness was no longer passing through. It had arrived. Days turned into nights, and nights into days. Time began to lose its shape. Asterisks, the sky stayed gray, the air still. Smoke drifted from the chimneys of the dying, curling upward like souls leaving the earth. Dogs wandered the lanes, searching for voices that would never call them again. Ilara kept her candle burning, though her hands trembled as she lit it each night. She boiled water, ground herbs, and spoke softly to those who came, her voice a gentle rhythm in the silence. Rest. She would say, breathe, the pain will pass soon. And for many, it did, but not in the way she meant. By the first frost, half the village was gone. The rest stayed inside their homes, praying, hiding, waiting for the sound of footsteps that would never come. Ilara walked alone through the empty streets, her shawl drawn tight around her. The wind carried the scent of rosemary and ash. She stopped by the mill, the wheel still, the stream frozen. There, she saw the black birds again, circling lazily above the rooftops. It was then she realized that something else had changed. The forest beyond the fields, once filled with the hum of life, was silent too. Not a bird, not a breath, only the whisper of the wind through bare branches, like a voice calling from far away. That night, Ilara dreamed she stood in the same forest, moonlight spilling across the ground. The trees around her moved like shadows, their branches reaching, from the darkness. She heard footsteps, slow, heavy, and then a bell, not the church bell. This was softer, distant, as if ringing from beneath the earth itself. When she woke, her candle had gone out. The air in her room was cold. On the floor beside her bed lay a black feather. The next morning, she went to the edge of the forest. The sun was faint behind clouds, a dull coin in a pale sky. The grass was wet with frost, crunching beneath her feet. She could see the village below, small, quiet, still wrapped in sleep. Then she saw something moving between the trees, a shape, cloaked and slow. It carried a wooden staff, its head bowed. At first she thought it was a traveler, lost and weary. But as it drew closer, she saw the mask, long-beaked, pale as bone. The figure stopped a few paces away. Its voice was low, muffled beneath the mask. You are the healer's daughter. Ilara nodded, unable to speak. The sickness has claimed many, the figure said. But there are worse things than death wandering these lands now. Before she could reply, it turned and vanished into the fog, leaving only footprints that melted into the frost. That night, Ilara sat by her window again, the candle burning low. She thought of the stranger, the mask like a bird's beak, the hollow voice that spoke of worse things. She wondered what could be worse than what she had already seen. And then she heard it faint at first, like a sigh carried on the wind, a whisper rising from the woods. It was her name, Ilara. She froze. The candle flickered. The whisper came again, closer now. Ilara. She rose slowly, moving toward the door, Outside, the night was thick with mist, the moon barely visible. She stepped into the cold, her breath a cloud, asterisked down the lane, at the edge of the fields. She saw a figure, the same cloak, the same mask, standing still among the fog. Asterisk Alara. It beckoned. She took one step forward, asterisk, and the candle in her window went out. Part 2. The Masked Wanderer. The fog wrapped around Alara like a living thing, curling against her skin, whispering as it moved. The world beyond her doorstep had dissolved into a blur of white and shadow. The only shape she could see clearly was the figure at the edge of the lane, tall, cloaked, still as stone, asterisk, Alara. The voice came again, distant yet near, as though it spoke inside her mind. Come, asterisk. She hesitated. Her heart thudded softly, steady but sure. She thought of her mother's words, the forest listens, child, but it does not always speak kindly. Asterisk still, something within her stirred, a pull stronger than fear. She stepped forward, her bare feet brushing against the cold earth. Asterisk the fog thickened with every step, swallowing the world behind her. The houses disappeared. The light of her candle, her only comfort, faded into the night, asterisk. And when she reached the place where the figure had stood, it was gone. The woods loomed before her, black against the pale mist. Asterisk branches clawed at the sky, stripped of their leaves. Somewhere in the distance, water dripped slow, rhythmic, the heartbeat of an ancient place. Alara stepped between the trees. She could feel the silence pressing against her ears. The air was cold, heavy, tasting faintly of iron. Her breath came in soft clouds as she walked deeper, guided only by a feeling, that strange sense that she was being led, not lost. Then came the bell, faint at first, like before. Asterisk one clear, gentle note, then another, and another. Asterisk the sound drew her onward, until the mist parted, revealing a clearing she had never seen before. At its center stood a stone well. Asterisk its rim was worn smooth by time, its mouth dark and endless. Moss crept along its sides, and carved into the stone were symbols faint, curling shapes like vines or writing long forgotten. Asterisk and beside it, a single lantern burned, its light golden and steady. Alara approached slowly. Her fingers brushed the stone, cold as winter water. She leaned forward, peering into the blackness below. She expected to see her reflection in the lantern light, but the darkness swallowed all. Only her breath moved across the surface, vanishing like a ghost. Then a whisper rose from the depths, not words. Not yet, asterisk, just sound, soft and distant, like the echo of voices carried through miles of stone. Asterisk, she stepped back, heart quickening. The sound grew louder, and from the darkness, something stirred. A faint shape rose within the well, pale, shimmering, twisting like smoke. It hovered above the mouth, forming slowly, uncertainly, until it became a face. A woman's face, eyes closed, lips parted in silent breath. Her hair drifted like water around her. Alara, it whispered, the voice distant, echoing from somewhere between worlds. Asterisk Alara froze. For you. Asterisk the voice answered, I was once what you are now, a healer, a watcher of the dying flame. Asterisk the sickness, Ilara said, her voice trembling. It's taking everyone. Can it be stopped? The spirit's eyes opened, pale and endless as the moon. The sickness is not what it seems. It came not only by man's hand, but by the sorrow of the earth. The land remembers, and now it weeps. Asterisk, Ilara's eyes burned with tears. Tell me what I must do. Asterisk, the spirit's form flickered, fading like a candle in the wind. Seek the masked wanderer. He walks between the living and the dead. Only he knows the path. Before Ilara could speak again, the lantern by the well dimmed, and the spirit was gone. Asterisk, she stood there, trembling as the fog began to thin. The first pale light of dawn slipped between the trees. Asterisk, somewhere, a crow cried. Asterisk, and in the distance, she saw movement once more, the same cloaked figure. Walking toward the hills, she followed. Asterisk, the road beyond the forest wound upward, rough with stone. As she climbed, she saw the world below her, the fields, the river, the small village, still sleeping beneath its blanket of gray. Asterisk, it looked peaceful from afar, untouched, as if nothing had happened. But she knew the truth. The figure stopped upon a ridge. When Ilara reached him, he turned slowly, the long-beaked mask catching the morning light. You followed, he said. I was told to, she replied. By one who came from the well. Asterisk, he regarded her for a long moment. Then you have seen what others refuse to see. Asterisk, who are you? She asked. Asterisk, I am what remains of mercy, he said quietly. I walk the dying lands to ease their pain, to remind them that even death must be witnessed. Asterisk, Ilara frowned. You mean you bury the dead? Asterisk, he shook his head. No, I listen to them. He led her down the other side of the hill, to a place where the trees grew close together. The ground there was soft, covered in moss and scattered bones, small ones, fragile as birds. Asterisk, at the center lay a wooden chest, half buried in the earth. Asterisk, this, he said, was where the sickness began. Asterisk, Ilara knelt beside the chest. What is it? Asterisk, the belongings of a traveler. He came from the southern ports, carrying goods, and something else. When his ship reached the shore, he was already dying. They buried him here, and thought the earth would keep his secret. But the earth was tired, and the secret broke free. Asterisk, he opened the chest. Inside lay scraps of fabric, a broken mirror, and a small pouch of herbs blackened with age. Asterisk, Ilara reached for it, but he stopped her. Do not touch it. It remembers. Asterisk, she drew her hand back, eyes wide. You mean? It still carries the sickness. Asterisk, not only sickness, he said softly. Grief, the grief of the sea, the sorrow of the wind. The world itself weeps, and we are drowning in its tears. They sat in silence for a time, the sound of wind whispering through the trees. The man's mask gleamed faintly, and Ilara could see her reflection in its curved beak, small, trembling, alive. Asterisk, what can we do? She asked finally. If this sickness is born of sorrow, how can it be healed? Asterisk, he turned toward her. You are the last healer left in your village. You still have the flame. You must use it. Asterisk, what flame? Asterisk the one that burns in your window each night. It is not just light, it is remembrance. Every time you lit that candle, the darkness turned its gaze away, for a moment. Keep it burning. Not only for the dead, but for the living who remain. Asterisk, he stood then, pulling his cloak tight. The night will soon grow longer. When it does, the voices will come again. Do not answer them. No matter what they promise. Asterisk, he began to walk away, but Alara called out, "Wait. Will I see you again?" Asterisk, the masked man paused. "If you keep the light alive." Yes. Then he was gone, vanishing into the fog. Asterisk, that evening, Alara returned to her cottage. The village was even quieter now, doors barred, windows dark. She passed the mill, the chapel, the empty square. The air was still, heavy with the scent of damp wood and faint decay. Asterisk inside, she lit her candle. The flame rose small and steady, its light soft upon the walls. She sat beside it, staring at the flicker, hearing the echo of the wanderer's words in her mind. Asterisk, keep it burning. Do not answer the voices. Asterisk outside, the wind began to rise, moaning softly through the lanes. It carried with it faint sounds, laughter, whispers, the creak of unseen doors. Alara closed her eyes and whispered a prayer. Hours passed. The flame danced, steady, patient. Then, from beyond the door, a knock. Soft, twice, Alara, came a voice. It was her father's. Asterisk, her breath caught. Her father had been dead for years. Asterisk, Alara, open the door, child. It's cold outside. Asterisk, tears filled her eyes. You're not real, she whispered. Asterisk, the voice softened, almost pleading. Please, I'm so cold. Her hand hovered over the latch. Then she remembered the wanderer's warning. Do not answer them. She stepped back, shaking, her heart breaking. The voice grew fainter, until only the wind remained. When dawn came, the fog lifted once more. Alara opened her window to the pale light, the scent of earth and dew filling the air. The world was quiet again, but she could feel it breathing beneath the silence. Asterisk, she knew the plague had not left. But she also knew something else now. The sickness was not only of flesh, but of spirit. And the candle she kept burning was not merely hope, it was resistance. Asterisk, as she watched the sunrise, she saw a single black feather on her windowsill. Asterisk, she smiled faintly. Though her eyes were tired, I kept the light, she whispered. The flame flickered, as though in answer. Part 3. The journey beyond the fields. The morning light was faint. A soft silver glow stretching across the cold fields. The earth seemed to sigh beneath the weight of frost. And every breath that escaped Alara's lips hung in the air like mist. Asterisk, she stood alone at the edge of her village, staring down the road that wound through the barren countryside. Behind her, the cottages slept, sealed tight against the creeping fear that had taken root in every heart. Asterisk, for a long while, she listened to the stillness, to the silence between the rustling leaves, to the faint cry of a raven far away. Then she whispered a prayer to the wind, touching the small lantern at her side. The candle burned low, but steady. She had promised herself she would follow it wherever it led. With a slow breath, Alara began to walk. The path stretched endlessly before her, a ribbon of dirt that faded into the morning fog. The fields on either side lay empty, once golden with wheat but now gray and brittle. Once, this land had thrived. She remembered laughter in the meadows, children running after sheep, and the smell of bread from the ovens. But those sounds were gone now. Only the whisper of the wind remained. As she walked, she thought of the masked wanderer, the strange figure who had come to her village and vanished just as quickly. His words echoed in her mind. The plague is not only of flesh, but of sorrow. The earth remembers. She didn't know what he meant, but she knew she had to find him again. He carried answers, and perhaps hope. Hours passed. The sun climbed weakly above the clouds, throwing pale light over the valley. Elara's feet ached, but she kept going. When she reached the river, she found the old bridge gone, its stones scattered, its wooden frame broken by years of neglect. She waded through the shallow water, her reflection trembling beneath her. The river's song was low and mournful. As she climbed the opposite bank, she noticed something strange. A group of stones arranged in a circle, blackened by fire. At the center lay the remains of an old mask, cracked down the middle. The shape was familiar, the long, curved beak of a plague doctor. Her heart pounded. She knelt and brushed away the dirt. Beneath the ashes, she found a symbol carved into one of the stones, a single tear, the same mark the wanderer had worn on his cloak. She whispered, "He was here." As dusk fell, she reached another village. It was smaller than her own, almost swallowed by the wilderness. The air was heavy with silence. Doors swung open, their hinges creaking softly. The smell of dust and rot filled the air. Ilara hesitated at the edge of the street. She lifted her lantern and called softly, "Is anyone here?" No reply. Only the sound of wind passing through the broken shutters. She entered the first cottage. The floorboards groaned beneath her steps. A child's toy lay abandoned in the corner, a small wooden horse. The table was still set, as if waiting for a meal that never came. On the wall hung a mirror, cracked and dull with age. As Ilara turned to leave, she caught a flicker of movement in its surface. A shadow, a figure standing behind her. She spun around. No one, her heart raced. The candle flame flickered violently, then steadied. She stared at the mirror again, but the reflection showed only her pale, frightened, alone. She whispered to herself, "It's just the wind. Nothing more." But deep inside, she knew it wasn't. By nightfall, she had left the village behind and followed a dirt road that wound into the forest. The trees rose tall and ancient around her, their branches twisting like arms in prayer. The air grew colder with every step. In the distance, she saw a faint light, firelight, flickering through the mist. She approached slowly, one hand resting on her lantern, the other gripping the small satchel of herbs at her belt. The fire burned in the ruins of an old monastery. Around it sat several figures cloaked in gray. Their faces were hidden, but their voices were soft, chanting words she did not understand. Ilara stepped forward. "Please, I mean no harm." Asterisk the chanting stopped. One of them turned, a woman with silver hair and calm weary eyes. Who are you? She asked. Asterisk my name is Alara, she said. I seek the masked wanderer. Asterisk at the mention of that name, the group fell silent. The woman studied her carefully, then gestured toward the fire. Come closer. You will freeze if you stay out there. Ilara sat beside the fire. Asterisk the warmth felt strange after so much cold. Almost unreal. Asterisk the woman introduced herself as Miriam, leader of a group called the Keepers of Ashes. Asterisk we go where others will not, Miriam said softly. We bury the forgotten. We pray for the land. The plague took more than lives, it took memory. And memory must be guarded. Ilara listened, fascinated. I met a man, she said. He wore a mask, like the ones the old healers used. He told me the earth remembers sorrow, that it carries grief. Asterisk Miriam's gaze darkened. Yes, the wanderer. We have met him too. Long ago he came to us and gave us our task, to keep the fire burning where the voices of the lost still linger. Asterisk, what voices? Alara asked quietly. Asterisk the ones that cry in the wind, Miriam said. The ones that were never buried. When the plague came, many died alone. Their spirits still wander, unable to rest. Asterisk Alara shivered. Can they be helped? Asterisk perhaps, Miriam said, but only by light. The wanderer seeks those who carry it, the ones who still believe in mercy when the world has forgotten it. That night, Ilara could not sleep. The fire had burned low, and the others lay wrapped in their cloaks. Asterisk she sat awake, staring into the dying embers, her thoughts heavy. Asterisk then she felt it. A presence. She turned slowly. A figure stood, beyond the firelight. Cloaked, masked. The same white beak glinting faintly in the darkness. Asterisk, Alara, the wanderer said softly. Asterisk, her breath caught. You came back. Asterisk, you kept your promise, he said. The candle still burns. Asterisk, she nodded, stepping closer. You told me the plague was sorrow, that the land remembers. Tell me what it means. Asterisk the wanderer tilted his head. The plague was born not from sickness, but despair. When men forgot compassion, the earth wept. And from its tears came the fever. It will not end until that sorrow is healed. Asterisk, how can sorrow be healed? She asked. Asterisk, he lifted his staff and pointed toward the north. There is a place beyond the marshes, Ravenmoor. It was the first to fall. The first grave was dug there. The earth still cries from that wound. Go there, and listen. But be warned. Asterisk, he paused, his voice lower now. The dead will speak to you. They will ask for your name. Do not give it. Asterisk, why not? She whispered. Asterisk, because names are bridges, he said. And once the bridge is crossed, the living cannot return. Before she could speak again, the mist rose, and he was gone. Asterisk at dawn, Alara told Miriam what had happened. The others listened in silence. Asterisk, you cannot follow him, one warned. That road is cursed. Asterisk, but Miriam only sighed. Every road is cursed now. Still, the world needs those who walk them. Asterisk, she removed the silver pendant from her neck, a crystal shaped like a tear. "Take this," she said. "It will remind you that even sorrow can shine." Elara thanked her, placed the pendant around her neck, and left. As the sun rose over the ruins, days passed. The path grew harder, the air colder. She crossed the marshes, where fog clung low to the ground and the smell of decay hung thick. Strange lights glimmered over the water, pale blue and drifting like lost souls searching for home. At night, she heard voices whispering through the reeds. Sometimes they said nothing. Sometimes they called her name. But she kept walking, her lantern burning bright. By the fourth day, she saw it, the remnants of a village, half swallowed by the earth. Ravenmoor. The wind was still, the silence deeper than any she had ever known. She stepped through the gate. Her candle flickered. The ground beneath her feet felt hollow, as though the soil itself breathed. The voice was faint, carried on the wind. Then another joined it. And another. Dozens. They came from everywhere, from the shadows, the wells, the broken houses. The sound grew until it filled the air like the murmur of the sea. Give us your name. Her hands trembled. She held the pendant tight. "I can't," she whispered. "I'm sorry." The whispers turned to cries, not angry but mournful, aching with centuries of sorrow. The ground trembled. From the mist, shapes began to form, faces pale as moonlight, eyes hollow, reaching out. She fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "You're not forgotten," she said. "I remember you. I carry your names, even if I cannot speak them." The pendant in her hand began to glow, its light spreading through the fog. The spirits paused. The air shimmered. One by one, their faces softened, their voices fading into gentle hums, until all that remained was silence. When the fog cleared, the village was still again. The earth no longer wept. Elara stood, weak but calm. In the soft dawn light, she saw something glinting near her feet, a small silver mask, half buried in the soil. She picked it up and held it close. The wanderer's voice echoed faintly in her mind. Where light walks, sorrow sleeps. Alara smiled faintly. "Then let the light keep walking," she whispered. She turned toward the rising sun and continued her journey. Part 4. The Valley of Forgotten Bells. The morning after Ravenmoor was quiet. Too quiet to feel real. Elara stood at the edge of the empty village, the air cool and still around her. Mist rose from the marsh, curling through the ruins like pale smoke. The candle in her lantern burned softly, steady as her heartbeat. She had done what she came to do. The voices had fallen silent, yet something inside her whispered that her journey was not over. When sorrow sleeps, it dreams, and dreams can wake again. She looked down at the silver mask she'd found in the earth. Its surface was cold, but when she touched it, she felt something, a faint pulse, like a living heartbeat. The wanderer, she murmured. "Who are you?" Her words disappeared into the mist. The road north was narrow and broken, winding through empty fields and overgrown paths. Days passed. The world seemed hollow. No birds, No travelers. Only the sigh of the wind through dead trees. Asterisk each night. Elara camped beside her lantern, listening to the faint hum of the pendant around her neck. Sometimes, she thought she heard faint music, bells. Very far away, carried on the wind. Asterisk a single tone, pure and low, that lingered just beyond hearing. Asterisk on the third night. She dreamed, asterisk she stood in a great hall of mirrors, each reflecting her face. Yet not quite, asterisk. Some mirrors showed her older, others younger. In one, she was not alive at all. Asterisk at the end of the hall stood the wanderer, holding a lantern brighter than any she had ever seen. Asterisk Elara, he said. You've come far, but the grief you carry is not yours alone. Asterisk, what grief? She asked. Asterisk, the sorrow of the land. It clings to those who listen. He raised his staff, and the mirrors shattered into 1,000 shards of light. She woke with a start. Her lantern had gone out. The morning sky was gray when she reached the valley. Asterisk. At its center stood a church, or what remained of one. Its tower leaned dangerously, its bells long fallen into the weeds. But when the wind blew, she could still hear them faintly, not of metal, but of memory, the valley of forgotten bells. Elara approached the gate. It swung open without a sound. Inside, the air was heavy with the scent of rain and stone. Ivy crawled up the walls, wrapping the broken windows in green. Through the cracks in the roof, sunlight streamed down in silver beams, catching motes of dust that drifted like ghosts in the air. Asterisk, she stepped inside. Her boots echoed softly on the old stone floor. Asterisk at the front of the chapel. A single candle burned. Asterisk beside it knelt an old man in a dark robe, his face hidden beneath a hood. Asterisk, you've come, he said, without turning. His voice was soft, almost kind. The one who follows the wanderer. Asterisk, Elara froze. You know him? Asterisk, the man nodded. I did once. We were brothers, though not by blood. When the sickness came, we tried to heal what could not be healed. He took the road of mercy. I took the road of silence. Asterisk, who are you? She asked. Asterisk, he rose slowly, turning toward her. His eyes were clouded with age, but his gaze was sharp. Asterisk, I am what remains of him, he said, of the man beneath the mask. Asterisk, her breath caught. You mean the wanderer? Asterisk, he smiled faintly. What you call the wanderer is no man now. He is a memory given form. When death came for him, the sorrow of the world refused to let go. The mask is all that's left of what once was human. Asterisk, Elara felt her heart ache. Then why does he still walk? Asterisk, because the world still grieves, the old man said. Until that sorrow ends, so will he. Asterisk, but tell me, what did you see in Raven? Asterisk, I saw peace, she whispered. For the first time in years, I saw the dead rest. Asterisk, the old man nodded. Then perhaps the earth is healing. But every healing comes with a cost. He turned and picked up a small box from the altar. Inside lay a single perfect bell, black as obsidian, etched with the same tear symbol she had seen before. Asterisk, this is the bell of the lost, he said. It was meant to call back the souls of the plague. But it does not ring for the living. If you hear it in your dreams, do not follow. Asterisk, he placed the bell in her hand. It felt impossibly heavy for its size. Asterisk, why give this to me? She asked. Asterisk, because you still carry light, he said. And soon, that light will be tested. That night, she made camp near the chapel ruins. The rain came softly, a silver curtain falling through the trees. She wrapped herself in her cloak, listening to the rhythm of the drops. Sleep came slowly when it did. She heard the bell. Asterisk. It was faint at first, a single note, distant and pure. Then another. The sound wrapped around her, gentle as breath along. Asterisk, her eyes opened. She was no longer in the forest. She stood on a bridge of stone, stretching over a dark river. Mist swirled around her feet. On the far side of the bridge, she saw shapes, people, hundreds of them, standing still. Their faces were pale, their eyes closed. Each one held a lantern that gave no light. Asterisk, Ilara. Asterisk, the voices rose in unison. Give us the flame. Asterisk, she clutched her lantern tightly. No, she whispered. It's not mine to give. Asterisk, the wind howled, and the river below began to glow faint, sickly green. Asterisk, from its depths. Hands reached upward, trying to grasp her. The bridge began to crack beneath her feet. Asterisk, Ilara, a voice called not from the crowd but behind her. Asterisk, she turned. The wanderer stood there, his mask shining faintly in the dim light. Asterisk, you dream too deeply, he said. Wake before the river takes you. Asterisk, how? She gasped. Asterisk, dropped the bell. Asterisk, she looked down. In her hand, the black bell gleamed with a light of its own. The moment she released it, it fell silently into the dark water, and she woke. Asterisk, the rain had stopped. Dawn was breaking. The box that once held the bell now lay open beside her, empty. Ilara's hands trembled. She stared at the river beyond the valley, its surface calm once more. Asterisk, had it been a dream or a warning? Asterisk, before she could wonder further, she saw something glimmer near the water's edge. A small object half buried in the mud. She knelt and brushed away the dirt. It was the same black bell, but it was cracked now and cold. She picked it up, from somewhere far off. She heard the faint toll of a church bell, one that should not have been ringing. The next village she reached was called Lornhaven. Asterisk, unlike Ravenmoor. It was not dead, but dying. Asterisk, smoke drifted from chimneys. The few who remained walked with their heads down. The plague had spared some, but not enough. Asterisk, as Ilara entered the square, people turned to look. Whispers followed her of her lantern, her calm, her strange beauty amid the ruin. Asterisk, an old woman approached her. You're a healer, aren't you? She asked. You carry the lights. Asterisk, Ilara hesitated. I try to help, she said softly. Asterisk, the woman took her hand. Then help us. The sickness has come again. Asterisk, Ilara looked toward the chapel at the end of the street. The doors were closed. She could hear coughing within, the low murmur of prayer and pain. She knew what she had to do. She pushed open the doors. Asterisk, inside. Dozens of people lay on the floor, wrapped in blankets, their faces pale and eyes sunken. The smell of sickness was thick, a mix of sweat, herbs, and despair. Ilara knelt beside a young boy whose breath came shallow and weak. She touched his forehead, whispering softly, as she prayed. The pendant around her neck began to glow. The light spread, faint but warm. The boy's breathing steadied. A murmur rippled through the room. For the first time in months, hope flickered. That night, she stayed with them. She moved from bed to bed, lighting candles, whispering words of comfort. Some she could not save. Others opened their eyes and smiled weakly, as though waking from a long dream. When the moon rose, she stepped outside. The streets were quiet. The air smelled of rain and smoke, and there at the edge of the square stood the wanderer. He watched her in silence, his mask pale beneath the moonlight. You did well, he said. You eased their sorrow. I did what anyone would, she said softly. No, he said. Few would. The world forgets mercy too easily. She stepped closer. You said the mask was sorrow, that you were memory. If that's true, then what am I? He tilted his head. You are what the world forgot to remember. She frowned. I don't understand. You will, he said. But not yet. And then, as always, he was gone, leaving only silence and the faint scent of ashes in the wind. The next morning, Ilara found the boy she had healed sitting by the window. He smiled at her. The fever's gone, he said. I dreamed of bells. Ilara knelt beside him. What did they sound like? He thought for a moment. Like light falling through the rain. Her eyes filled with tears. That's a beautiful sound. The boy nodded. They said thank you. For what? She asked. For listening. Ilara left Lornhaven at sunrise. The road ahead stretched farther than she could see. She did not know where it would lead, only that the lights still burned, and the bells still rang faintly in the distance. She lifted her lantern. The candle inside flickered once, then steadied. The journey continues, she whispered, and she walked on. Part 5. The shadow of the wanderer. The morning rose, pale, over the fields. Mist curled low to the ground, swallowing the path ahead. Ilara walked slowly, her cloak damp with dew, her lantern swinging at her side. The candle inside burned low, smaller than before. Each step she took felt heavier than the last, as if the earth itself resisted her moving forward. Behind her lay Lornhaven. Still breathing, still alive. But she couldn't stay. Something deeper called her north, beyond the hills, where the land turned black and the sky refused to lighten. The wanderer's words echoed in her mind. You are what the world forgot to remember. She didn't yet know what that meant. But she would. Soon, by midday, she reached the edge of a forest unlike any she had seen before. The trees grew twisted, their trunks blackened as though by fire. No birds sang here. Even the wind moved quietly, careful not to disturb whatever lingered in the shadows. A single wooden sign stood at the entrance. Its letters nearly gone. To the hollow fields and beyond. The Black Abbey. Ilara hesitated. The air tasted of iron. Still. She stepped forward. Inside the forest, time seemed to bend. The path turned and turned again, but always led deeper. Asterisk the candle flickered wildly, though there was no wind. Asterisk at times, she thought she heard footsteps behind her, soft, perfectly timed with her own asterisk when she stopped. The sound stopped too. Her voice trembled when she spoke, wanderer. Asterisk, no answer. Only the creak of the trees. Asterisk then, she saw it, a shadow moving between the trunks, tall and thin, carrying something that glinted in the dark, a lantern, just like hers. She followed it, asterisk, the deeper she went, the colder it grew. The ground became soft and wet beneath her boots, like walking on forgotten graves. Asterisk the forest began to thin, and she emerged into a vast clearing. Asterisk at its center stood a great stone building, half collapsed, draped in ivy and fog, the Black Abbey. Its windows were hollow, its doors broken. Yet from within, a faint light flickered, candlelight, steady and gold. Ilara approached slowly. The bell tower above was cracked, but she could still see its silhouette against the gray sky. The doors groaned as she pushed them open. Inside, dozens of candles burned. Asterisk their flames wavered gently, casting moving shadows across the walls. Every pew was empty, except one, there near the altar. Saturday, a man wearing a plague doctor's mask. The wanderer, asterisk, you've come farther than any before you, he said. His voice low but kind. Asterisk Ilara approached him, her lantern trembling in her hand. You said the world still grieves. You said you were only memory. Tell me the truth, wanderer. Who are you? He rose, slow and weary, like someone burdened by centuries. I was a healer once, he said. When the plague came, I believed that medicine could save everyone. But I was wrong. The sickness was not of the body. It was the heart, the loss of kindness, of mercy. When I died, I could not rest. The sorrow of the land bound me to it. The mask became my prison. Asterisk, Ilara's voice softened. And me, what am I in this story? Asterisk, he turned toward her. You are the light that sorrow forgot. You are the dream the world buried when it chose despair. You were born from memory, from the prayers of the dying. Asterisk, she shook her head. That can't be. Asterisk, it is, he said. The reason you do not tire, the reason death does not touch you, it is because you are not entirely human anymore. You are hope, walking. Asterisk, her breath caught. Then why am I fading? Asterisk, the wanderer looked at her lantern. The flame inside had shrunk to a fragile spark. Asterisk, because the world is healing, he said. When sorrow ends, hope no longer needs to walk. It can sleep again. They stood in silence for a long time. The candlelight shimmered across the broken walls. Asterisk, then the wanderer said, there is one place left, one wound the earth still carries. Beneath this abbey lies the crypt of the first plague victims. The sorrow there has never been lifted. You must go below. Asterisk, Ilara hesitated. And you? Asterisk, I cannot enter, he said. The dead remember me too well. Asterisk, she nodded. Then I'll go. Asterisk, he placed a hand on her shoulder. If the darkness speaks your name, remember, Do not answer. The stairs descended deep into the earth. The air grew cold, the walls damp with age. Asterisk, she carried her lantern close, its light dancing on the stone. Whispers began faint, sorrowful, rising from the dark. Asterisk. Asterisk, she walked faster. The tunnel opened into a wide chamber lined with stone coffins. Bones lay scattered on the floor, dust drifting in the air. Asterisk, at the center stood a single coffin, unmarked, untouched. Her candle flame leaned toward it, as though drawn. She knelt beside it. The lid was carved with the same symbol she had seen before, a tear. Asterisk, the moment her fingers touched the stone, the ground trembled. Asterisk, the air filled with voices, hundreds, thousands, all speaking at once. Asterisk. You carry our sorrow. You must let it go. Asterisk, tears filled her eyes. I don't know how. Asterisk, let the flame fall, they whispered. Let sorrow sleep. Her lantern flickered violently, the light dimming until only a spark remained. She closed her eyes. If I let it go, what happens to me? Asterisk, no answer, only wind, cold and gentle. She took a slow breath and released the lantern. It shattered on the stone floor, the candle tumbling free. Asterisk, for a heartbeat. Darkness swallowed everything, then light, not flame, but something deeper. Asterisk, the air shimmered. The coffins glowed faintly. The voices rose in harmony, no longer sorrowful, but peaceful. Asterisk, and in that moment, Ilara understood. She had been the flame, not the lantern. Asterisk, when she opened her eyes again, she was standing in the abbey. The candles were out. The wanderer stood before her, his mask cracked, his hands trembling. Asterisk, you did it, he whispered. The sorrow has ended. Asterisk, she smiled faintly. Then you can rest. Asterisk, he nodded slowly. The mask began to fade, turning to ash in the soft morning light. Asterisk, thank you, Ilara, he said. You reminded the world how to hope. And then he was gone. The abbey was silent, outside. Dawn broke through the clouds, the first golden sunrise the land had seen in decades. Asterisk, Ilara stood at the doorway, her pendant glowing faintly against her chest. Asterisk, her hands were empty now. No lantern, no flame, but she didn't need one. The light was everywhere. Asterisk, she smiled. The world remembers again. And with that, she stepped into the sunlight, and vanished with the morning mist. Part 6. The dawn that never fades. The land awoke slowly, as though stretching after a long sleep. Mist drifted above the valleys, catching the first rays of gold. The air smelled of rain and pine. Somewhere far beyond the hills, a bell tolled softly, not in mourning this time, but in welcome. Asterisk, and across those quiet miles, Ilara's light moved like memory through the morning. Asterisk, she was no longer flesh and bone. She was something lighter, a whisper of warmth, a breath of sun through the leaves. The world had begun again. The village of Ashfield, weeks later. In a small town that had once been gray with grief, children were playing beside the river. Their laughter echoed through streets that had forgotten joy. Windows once shuttered now stood open, curtains fluttering like flags of peace. Asterisk, Mira, a young woman with a braid of golden hair, stood before the old chapel. She carried a basket of wildflowers, lavender, rosemary, daisies, and laid them at the doorway. Grandmother said this place was cursed, she whispered, but it feels kind. Asterisk the wind stirred. A single petal lifted, floating upward. It caught the sunlight and shimmered, not white, but warm amber. Asterisk Mira smiled. Thank you, she said, though she did not know to whom. Across the kingdom asterisk, the change spread like spring after winter. Asterisk fields once barren grew green again. The rivers ran clear, carrying reflections of blue sky instead of gray. Asterisk, in the city of Lornhaven, bells rang every morning at dawn, not to warn, but to remind that life, fragile as it was, could be beautiful again. Asterisk, some said a spirit walked among them, a woman with no shadow, who left warmth where she passed. Others said it was only imagination, but when the night grew quiet, and candles burned low, many swore they felt her presence, a calm, unseen comfort, whispering that everything would be all right. The dream of the wanderer asterisk deep in the forgotten woods, where the black abbey had stood, nothing remained but wildflowers. No walls, no broken bells, only the gentle hum of bees. Asterisk one evening, a traveler passing through stopped beside the meadow to rest. As he sat, he found an old mask half buried in the earth, the curved beak of a plague doctor, cracked but glimmering faintly under the starlight. Asterisk, he lifted it with care. Strange relic, he murmured, who wore you? Asterisk, and though no one answered, he felt a warmth in the air, as if unseen hands blessed his heart. Asterisk, when he looked up, fireflies filled the field, thousands of tiny lights rising like souls set free. Asterisk, he smiled and whispered, then you are not gone. The eternal flame asterisk Ilara drifted above the world she had healed, unseen, yet everywhere in the wind, in the hush before rain. In every act of kindness, asterisk, she no longer needed a lantern. The light lived in others now. Asterisk a farmer's laugh, a mother's lullaby, a child's hand reaching to help. Each spark carried a piece of her asterisk. The darkness that once fed on despair had nowhere left to dwell. Asterisk, it tried to return, but wherever it went, it found warmth waiting asterisk, and so it faded, gently. Without anger, a new generation years passed. In Ashfield, Myra grew older. She married, raised children, taught them the old songs her grandmother once sang, asterisk every night. Before they slept, she lit a candle on the windowsill, not for fear, but in gratitude, asterisk, she told her children, long ago, a light walked through the world to heal it. It left pieces of itself in every heart. Asterisk, the children would smile, watching the flame dance. Do you think she still watches us? Asterisk Myra nodded. Always. She is the dawn that never fades. The return of peace asterisk seasons turned like pages. Empires rose and fell. The story of the plague became legend, a cautionary tale, told beside fires in the depth of winter. Asterisk yet, whenever sorrow threatened to return, someone somewhere would dream of a woman walking through fog with a lantern in her hand, asterisk, and in that dream, the sickness would falter, and hearts would find calm again. Asterisk, some called her a saint, some called her hope, but the wise said she was simply the memory of compassion, the one thing even death could not erase. The last vision asterisk on a quiet night, centuries later. A monk writing by candlelight in a rebuilt abbey felt drowsy. Asterisk, his quill slowed, ink pooling at the edge of the parchment. His eyes closed. Asterisk, in that space between waking and sleep, he saw her, Ilara, standing in a field of golden grass. The sky was violet, the sun eternal. She turned to him and smiled. "You remember," she said softly. "Then my story is safe." The monk woke with tears on his cheeks. He looked down and found the words already written on the page. "Let sorrow sleep, let kindness wake." Asterisk, for even in the darkest plague, the heart remembers the light. He placed his hand over the words and whispered, "Asterisk, may you never fade. The light above the world." Asterisk, and so the tale ends not in silence, but in breath. Asterisk, for as long as someone listens. Ilara's light continues, moving through dream, through time, through the smallest acts of care. Asterisk, the dawn she gave the world has no horizon. It circles endlessly. Asterisk, when the stars grow tired and the moon forgets to rise, her glow will still hum softly in the air, guiding wanderers home. She is not gone. She is the peace that hums beneath the world.